gotten into the team, I think, in the Galway game in the All-Ireland quarter-final. Has a brilliant finish to the season, and he's gone so quickly. Went on to win, I think, the double with Cratloe, obviously hurling and football county titles. But yeah, definitely over too soon, Mike.
Definitely, Shane. We talked in a separate video about a couple of teams in Munster, how they're lacking a centre back. As Fintan says, he was their centre back and going to be their centre back for the guts of a decade. Probably, like, apart from goalkeeper, like the most important position on the field, probably. And it's such a difficult position to play. And he looked like there was so much scope for him to deliver and be that key man at number 6 for them for a long time. And it gone far too soon. Off the pitch as well, just a lovely fella. And anytime I was ever chatting to him, you kind of feel so bad that his career was taken away from him, because the world was his oyster after 2013, really, and we just didn't get to see how good he could have been. I would love to see what he would have been like at 27 or 28. He would have been unbelievable, I'd say.
He wasn't the only one from that team either, because Derek Honan was brilliant. Obviously scored the exclamation mark, the punctuation point of a goal in that replay. He was another guy, and obviously, like, the fact that he had to get stem cell treatment on his hip as well, he was trying to get that sorted. Much like Richie Power, who, of course, unlike the boys who had won one All-Ireland, he had won 8. And like, it's kind of funny, you'd almost wonder with Richie Power, how much more could he have won? Is it possible to win more if he could stay fit? Because even 2014, he scored 4 goals in the last 3 games as Kilkenny won an All-Ireland after a replay with Tipperary, and crucially scored that goal to turn the tide against Limerick in the semi-final. Like, how much more could he have done, Finn?
Definitely, there's probably a sense of, I guess, maybe kind of unfinished business, Kilkenny would argue. I mean, you think of like the 16 championship, like he kind of would have been a really, really experienced player, you'd imagine, to, like, you think if you had TJ Reid in the half forward and Richie Hogan at midfield, and if you had him and Colin Fennelly inside, that would have been a really, really big threat for Kilkenny to carry. I suppose different to some of the other guys that we'll talk about, in that he did achieve a lot. The impact you said in 2014, and he had 2 All-Star years, I think, in 10 and 11. But I suppose the fact that he just had to kind of retire a bit early, and he came into the side so young, and maybe at a time when Kilkenny's forward line, the experienced guys were pushing on, Shefflin, Eddie Brendan, and these sort of lads, you'd be thinking that it was Power was going to kind of take over that team. But it's just, his knees gave up on him, and he just wasn't able to kind of keep going. The county demands. Fairness to him, he did come back and shine at Croke Park again in club intermediate final in 17. I remember him saying at that time that there was a guy, I think, from Carrickshock involved in the St Jude's club, and they drove up that day on the team bus, but he drove separately to go to Jude's to basically do some work on a bike for about 40 minutes, because he basically, that's it, had to do that, kind of warm it up, warm his knee up, and then he scored like 5 or 6 points, I think, from play against would have been the Manions of Galway at their club. So no mean feat. So it's kind of a nice way for him to, I suppose, end it in Croke Park, to kind of get an All-Ireland medal with his club at intermediate level. But definitely you'd think, Kilkenny probably would have been hoping that they would have got maybe another 3 or 4 years out of him.
Yeah.
Imagine, Shane, in recent years how much of a foil he would have been for Richie and for TJ. All the pressure on TJ. Defences would have had to look at, giving special attention to him. And if Richie didn't prosper, TJ or the other Richie was going to prosper as well. So I'd say, like, it's a pity. Like, he's managing Carrickshock now, so it's great to see him back involved and getting involved at management and club level and things like that. But he should probably just be winding up his county career at this stage or in the next year or two. So, like, an unbelievable player, unbelievable pace. Broke ear hearts a couple of times, a couple of great goals in that 14 final. So I definitely have good memories of him as a result of that.
Jeez, I didn't realise you were a fully converted Kilkenny man at this stage. Are there any comments in actually of other players that viewers might have thought had their careers cut short?
Yeah, there's lots of interesting ones, to be honest with you. Andrew O'Shaughnessy is one that we've gotten in from a good few people. Obviously, was an All-Star in 07 and had sickness and different issues after that. Like, we talk about Joe Connolly being a prodigy at underage level. There's not too many more bigger prodigies than Andrew O'Shaughnessy, just with what he did with Coleman's and Fermoy and the Harty, and even at colleges level as well. Absolutely outstanding player. A couple of lads in from Burr actually just writing in. They just wrote one word, and it's amazing how everybody can know what someone with one word. They just wrote in Mongo. Adrian Cattle, absolute phenomenon by all accounts, and it's not just kind of talk now that people say that people get better when they're finished, but he was as good as Brian Whelan at minor, like as good and touted as big a prodigy. broke his leg. They were just messing around playing soccer, and he's about 18 or 19 down the pitch, broke his leg playing soccer, and was never really the same since. But an unbelievable talent. Won a Club All-Ireland outfield in 95 as well. Just a couple of other ones, interesting ones. Nisha Waldron in there, just saying Charlie Carter and Cha Fitzpatrick, which is, both probably left the scene as a result of kind of Brian Cody, captains under Cody. Cha twice an All-Star, Carter probably twice an All-Star as well. So there's been a couple of lads maybe that were cast aside a bit too early. Those two definitely stand out, like two of the best players we've seen over the last 15 or 20 years.
I wonder how much more Joe Connolly would have done if he hadn't to get injured. And I think he was playing, I know his son, so he was saying it was a Mickey Mouse sort of a challenge game, and he ended up hurting his knee, retiring I think in 1984 at the age of 27. And when you think that Brendan Linsky played on till he was 35 or more, I mean, surely Joe Connolly would have made it to 1990 when he still would have been, something like 32, and he was in very, very good shape as well. So Galway he missed out on a couple of All-Irelands, and maybe Galway would have missed out on another All-Ireland because of the impact he could have had, Fintan.
Yeah, and like the way the Galway history, the hurling story that they waited so long, the breakthrough in 80, and the way it probably started to go right from them then towards the end of the 80s. Like obviously they won the two All-Irelands, then the controversy in 89 obviously, and then like they reached All-Ireland final in 86, didn't they as well?
Yeah, against your lads.
And then 90 as well. So I mean, like there's definitely, 90 is one that they all talk about, don't they? That one that kind of got away from them. And I mean, that's the obvious what if. But if you put a guy like that and a guy of that kind of renown, and a guy that established into the side, what he could have done. Just to go back to kind of when you talked earlier about Holland, I think it's worth kind of mentioning him because I think that's kind of a tougher one in the sense that injury kind of hit him at a young age after coming out of under 21 ranks, because a guy that still gets to experience some big days at senior level, it's maybe a regret that he didn't kind of get to experience a lot of them. But I think it's kind of tougher on a guy who's had such success at underage. And I mean, if you think about that 2009 under 21 championship, that was the kind of start of it really for Clare. I remember covering that Munster final that year down in Dungarvan, and like the atmosphere was absolutely incredible for that match. It was the year after the kind of Clare tip controversy, and it was a big thing obviously for Clare to kind of win that 21 championship. But like Conan got a goal that night where like he had this kind of style of play, he'd be playing in the full forward line, but he'd come out to get the ball, really, really good at swiveling, turning, and just the power and the pace he would get up at. I think the TG Carter game this Sunday is the Clare Galway game for 2009. If anyone's ever seen it, it's well worth catching out. He got a couple of goals that day. It was kind of a duel between him and Joe Connolly. So, well, he did get a goal in All-Ireland senior final day, and the one that kind of sealed it for them in 2013. I think there's definitely, more stuff with the lad himself, that probably a sense of frustration that he probably never really got a clear run at it at senior level.
Absolutely. A couple of Tipperary examples, and they both would have been around the 09-10 era. Pat Currick thought he was brilliant in 2009 and had a great All-Ireland final. I think he scored a few points. And
he delivered the ball across, Shane, didn't he, for Callanan's one that was saved. It was through the eye of a needle. Remember that? An unbelievable pass. Yeah,
that was brilliant. And then, of course, just injuries. I have it in my head, hip, and then obviously he sung the Galtee Mountain Boy the next year. So that was a fair contribution nonetheless, because that was so good. Seamus Hennessy, a guy who came on in the 2010 All-Ireland, had brilliant underage success. Knee injuries absolutely scuppered his career, because he could have been anything. Like, he was so good, and even in this past year I've seen him in the goals for Killawan McDonough's, but like, you wonder how good he would have been, whether it's like spraying ball from wing back, midfield, even being a target inside. You wouldn't know, but he was so good. I presume you saw him a fair bit, Fintan.
Yeah, and like, Tip got a plenty out of that kind of 06 or 07 minor teams. But he's, I suppose you're always probably thinking of the ones that got away. And I mean, like, he made that contribution off the bench in 2010. And, I suppose like the Mars that obviously have gone on to achieve great things in Noel McGrath, but he probably could have maybe offered something kind of different around the middle, you would have felt. Kind of ball winning, like, was really, really versatile. I remember seeing him play a bit in Fitzgibbon for NUIG, like, was really, really strong. So I'd say there's definitely a sense of regret in Tipperary, because you think they won the All-Ireland in 2010, the gap then until 2016 when the team was kind of undergoing a bit of a transition. Would he have helped kind of bridge that? Would he have offered something around the middle at a time when, hurling was kind of changing a bit and Kilkenny had kind of roared back into contention after 2010? So, like, obviously, look, that's one of the greatest underage teams I think ever in terms of what they achieved afterwards at senior level, but probably a sense of maybe a bit of frustration that they the other kind of big prospect out of us never really got a clear run of it.
And I'm thinking now, Gearóid Ryan is another guy who kind of had to retire from Tipperary and had a few injury dogged years as well. Michael, jump in there.
Shane, just on a point that Fintan was saying is, and I'd like to get your own thoughts on what you think. Which is worse, to have been there as a young fella and tasted that All-Ireland victory, we'll say, like a Seamus Hennessy, like Dara Honan, and then had it taken away, or to have not had experienced it at all, to have been to that high and then never be able to get to that high again, or to have never got to the high, and I suppose the dream is gone, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure which is worse. Both are bad.
Yeah, I'd say it must be very difficult to know that you have the talent to succeed at that level and then have it taken away from you, to get that little taste and then it's gone forevermore, even when you're of that age that you let's say you're still 27 and you haven't played for 3 or 4 years and you should be there. I'd say that's very, very difficult to take. Maybe as you get older, then you're in your 40s, maybe you might have accepted it at that point, but that must be very, very tough. Fintan?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it comes down to what stage it kind of happens for you. I mean, like, you take someone like Richie Power, you know, he still had achieved an incredible amount between minor, 21, club, senior. You know, it kind of ends from around, I think he was 30, was he, 2015, when he stopped playing. You know, you've a bit of regret that you can't keep going for another 3 or 4 years, but like, you still packed a lot into your career. I think for someone like Honan and Hennessy, getting that taste of it, coming on as a sub, thinking, you know, okay, I've made a contribution off the bench this year, but like, you know, if I can kind of get fit, get a good go at this, you know, I can kind of nail down a starting place, and this team can go to bigger and better things, and we can kind of get back to those heights, and I can be a part of it, and I can kind of drive that on. But it just doesn't work like that. Probably just that sense of maybe kind of unfulfilled talent through no fault of your own. I mean, it's not a case that didn't put in the work or whatever. It's a case of, like, in both cases, kind of really debilitating injuries in terms of knee and hip that never really give them a chance to kind of make an impact. And I wonder as well, like, you know, injuries like that are kind of recurring, you know, that you keep on thinking, is there a bit of light at the end of the tunnel to come back, as opposed to, you know, a couple of other guys that I think we've touched on different times that affected their career. David Tracy did a cruise ship, Dublin player. Paddy Sullivan broke his leg really badly at one stage in a club match in Cork. You know, that's one big injury, and you know, okay, that's, you know, I can write off the next year. But I often wonder about guys who kind of, it's just consistently injuries that are kind of at them, you know, hamstring or a knee or whatever, and they can't quite get them right. I wonder, is that kind of more frustration for guys to deal with?
Like Paul Schutte would have had that for years, just hamstring injury after hamstring injury, did it off the bone, came back, does it off the bone again. Very tough. Like Richie Power, a quote from an article you did with him, I think a couple of years ago: I played 12 minutes for Kilkenny in 2015. That was after 3 operations. You would have to question, was it worth it? And then separately, you have to wonder how much mismanagement from a physical preparation standpoint, how often was it mismanagement that caused this player's career to ultimately end because of injury, whereas if they were dealt with differently, Michael Verney, maybe they would have been able to recover.
Yeah, possibly so. It's an interesting one, because I'm actually chatting Ray Moran, the surgeon, for a piece in tomorrow's paper, and he's kind of saying there is sometimes just an unlucky cohort that have underlying issues that, regardless of how you would have dealt with them, they would have still kind of propped up. Richie Power would probably fall into that. I think he 10 surgeries gotten before he was 30. And, you know, and even John Tennyson, remember John Tennyson played the 10 final when the drive for 5 was stopped. He made it the whole way through the final, but should have probably had his cruciate operated on. It didn't actually snap or anything again, and he never got it operated on again, but he was never the same again. Do you know? So it's an interesting one. Just some other interesting comments in as well. You mentioned Paul Schutte in here. It's very rare you'd have someone on this sort of a list that hasn't played inter-county hurling. But Richie Shea has Con in as one. Con O'Callaghan, obviously, we've never actually got to see it. Couple of other interesting ones. Richie Doyle is almost like the forgotten one of Kilkenny hurling. He would have been kind of touted as, you know, obviously no one is the same as JJ Delaney, but he's the same sort of style and a brilliant underage pedigree. I chatted to him a couple of years ago. He had unbelievable hip problems. Got back playing a bit of club, but was kind of struggling with injury throughout his career. Joe Dooley, after taking a right cut at me, my old Offaly boss, he said, "Don't forget to include yourself with a winky face," or a smiley face. So he's definitely messing. Brendan has another one in here, and it'd be interesting to hear Fintan's thoughts on this. He said Darren Sweetenham was a massive loss to Cork hurling and would have turned into a real top hurler. I feel probably would have been a great centre forward for Cork. He played the 2012 All Ireland semi final, I think, and don't think he played again then.
No, that was pretty much the end of it for him. I guess it's kind of a different debate, as regards guys that have kind of lost other sports. Can't really blame them. I mean, there's plenty of rugby examples, I suppose, in particular over the last few years. But yeah, that was Jimmy Roy Murphy's first year. I mean, that was a time in Cork, like, underage hurling was going really, really badly. He didn't really come from a successful team or anything. But the thing about him as well is that he was just an incredible sporting all-rounder, I think he played underage hockey for Ireland. He was quite good at badminton and golf as well. Didn't really come from a kind of traditional hurling area in Dunmanway, but made such an impact in 2012. And then there's obviously the what if. Then you're thinking, right, he'd have had a second season under his belt in 2013 would have got better and the kind of fine margins of that season. So yeah, never really Cork didn't probably get a proper look at him in terms of kind of seeing how we went. But I think it's a different kind of a frustration seeing a guy go in kind of a different sporting direction. And I think the personal frustration, I mean, he made that choice, he kind of went off to rugby. So I think it's a tougher thing for a guy who's decided to go down the hurling road or to get a football road, and then injury just kind of strikes him off course.
Yeah, it's tough to take when you see anyone going from hurling to rugby. Can't say I like it at all. We might do a video on players that have been lost to other sports later down the line. Is there anyone else we've missed before we get on to Who Am I with you, Michael Verney?
Just the last one here, Kevin O'Regan has in here, and I hate to bring up this man, Eamon Taff. Chronic hamstrings and back injuries meant we didn't see enough of him, and he actually had a hamstring injury all of 1995, all during that summer, so played very, very little, and I think he'd picked up another knock when he was getting ready to come off, and then he scored the all-important goal in 95. Tanto Halpi mentioned as well, obviously it wasn't to do with injury, we only saw him at one season, probably someone we'll talk a bit more about maybe in another kind of a video of what might have been just maybe going away from hurling. Philly Maher, obviously, and Willie Maher, two tip lads, obviously. Philly, the great fullback, his career was definitely ended a bit early, and there was one or two other ones here as well. Someone else just said Dermot Connolly and Shane Long on Spot the Dove had Dermot Connolly and Shane Long. I suppose Eve had enough good forwards over the last while. You're hardly going to cry about Shane Long considering his exploits against Germany that night in the Aviva.
No, I am going to complain about losing him. He would have made some difference. My brother Paddy played with him at minor level, and much in all as Tip have had some great forwards, you couldn't beat a man with that speed and that sort of hand. He would have been unbelievable for Tip during that generation. Funnily enough, the Sunday game team, the RTE Sunday game team of that era came out, and all three of the inside forwards on their team, picked by the public now, were Tipperary men: Nicky English, Seamus Callanan and Owen Kelly. So we're fairly well represented as far as the public is concerned, Fintan.
Yeah, I feel very sorry for you, right? You've lost Shane Long when considering how the last decade has gone for you and the kind of class of forwards you've been able to pick. Interesting that I suppose obviously it's a public vote. Hard to know the way these things are going to go, but that it kind of went all down the line of three Tipperary players. You definitely have thought, one, maybe two of them were going to be included. I think you were saying, was it Shefflin and Canning are kind of in the half forward line, so they'd probably be the other two big candidates that people might have thought would slot into the full forward line. But yeah, would have been a nice full forward line to see in action.
Yeah, as a lad said to me, as long as you bypass the half forward line and let it straight into the inside line, you're doing okay.